Hey, what's happening? What's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning into Rules for Rebels. We got a viewer question today. Got an email from Noah, and Noah was basically saying that a family friend of his, older gentleman, has done very well in real estate. Noah lives in a college town, and he had suggested to Noah that he should look into getting into kind of the real estate game, being a landlord, buying a property and starting to kind of build a portfolio of properties and renting them out to college students. So I'm far from an expert in real estate. I do own one rental property in addition to my primary residence, my house I live in. And overall, I've been very, very happy with the experience. I think I've been a landlord for, I don't know, maybe going on maybe 7 years. So basically, I kind of got into real estate purely, I don't want to say by accident. I've always had an interest in real estate. When I was in my early 20s, I decided that rather than renting a house, I wanted to buy something, move a couple buddies in with me. Because, when you're younger, everyone's got roommates. Move a couple buddies in with me. They could get rent cheaper than they could go get an apartment for. And for me, I would get most of my mortgage paid for, if not all of my mortgage paid for. So I had two buddies of mine move in with me, Terrell and Adam, and basically, we all three lived there together for a number of years. My mortgage was $700-800 a month. They were each paying me, I think, $450. So, they pretty much paid all the mortgage. I wound up picking up the utilities. So not only did I essentially get to live almost for free, I did pay the utilities. Not only did I get to live almost for free, but that whole time I was building equity as well. Fast forward a couple years, one of my buddies wanted to move out and move in with his girlfriend. And around that time, my folks had moved to Charleston, South Carolina. They had a house in a neighboring city. They didn't want to sell. They had a bunch of stuff. They weren't ready to sell, didn't want to put it into storage, didn't want to deal with renting. So they asked me if I could rent out my house and rent their house from them for a couple of years. So first time around, I didn't even use a property management company. Threw an ad up on Craigslist. I think put a listing up on Zillow. I think the second person I showed the house to wound up taking it. There's sites out there that you can do credit checks on. So I did a credit check, and they make it really easy. Like, rather than somebody having to give you their social, which people are kind of weird about, you just send them a link to this trusted third party. So I think it was Experian or one of the credit reporting agencies. They fill out all the stuff. I get a report back. Both the people had 750, 800 credit scores, good income, everything else. They moved in. Everything went very smoothly. They were paying me $1,200 a month. My mortgage, again, $700 or $800. So I was getting my mortgage paid, plus making a couple $100 a month. Didn't really have any big repairs or any problems come up. I think the most I had to do was go over there and fix a leaky sink and maybe put in a couple new sink cartridges. But everything went really smooth. Rented to them for maybe 3 or 4 years. They wound up moving out. I think they wanted to put their kid in a different school and wanted to move closer to there. So that came to an end. Next time around, my house, it's not in a terrible area, but it was a starter home. I was looking for something cheaper. It's not in the best of areas. It's in a really, really good school district, but it's kind of on I don't know if you want to say on the wrong side. Actually, it literally is on the wrong side of the tracks. It backs up to railroad tracks. But it's always been a little bit kind of sketchy. The neighborhood's gone downhill a little bit, so all the applications I was getting second time around were Section 8. I really didn't want to deal with the government and all that kind of stuff on my own, so this time around I hired a property management company. I think they charged me $250 a month to find a tenant, and then they charged me 10% of the rent every month. Right now I'm getting $1,400 a month. The way Section 8 works, the state pays the bulk of the rent, and the people living there based on their income pay a portion. So I think the state picks up $1,233, and these people give me $170 something a month, is kind of how that works out. A little bit rocky right off the start. First month they were 2 weeks late paying their rent, so not a great first impression. But again, the nice thing about Section 8, I'm guaranteed $1,233 every month from the state. So if these people never pay me, I'm still profitable. If they do pay me, obviously it's even better, and I do want to collect my money every month. Haven't had any problems like that since. I have had to do a couple repairs here and there, had to put in some new smoke detectors and stuff like that. And I did have one instance which was totally random. I don't blame it on my tenant selection or anything else. Long story short, I get a call one morning. Apparently some young guy with schizophrenia went over to my house, threw bricks through all the windows, broke every window in the downstairs, wound up going into the house. My tenants were, I shouldn't laugh, it's actually a really terrible story. My tenants were hiding in the upstairs bathroom. This guy's pounding on the door. Police wound up coming, arresting the guy. I got homeowner insurance, so I think it cost me $1,000 on my deductible. paid that out of pocket, and then later, I guess the insurance company sued him, got the money, and I wound up getting $1,000 back. So aside from that, it's been pretty smooth. I actually personally think that like renting and being a landlord definitely outperforms the stock market. Assuming you buy a property in good condition and your mortgage is less than a rent, and I think the rule of thumb is you want to make 10% over whatever your mortgage is. I'm actually doing quite a bit better than that. But yeah, overall, I've been really happy with my experience, and actually currently I'm working with a realtor trying to buy my second rental property. But when it comes to college towns, Noah had been kind of asking for some advice and things like that. So when it comes to college towns are really a great place to rent. I remember when I was going to school, I went to Eastern Illinois University, EIU. I was actually just down there recently. Every year I go on a camping trip down to Southern Illinois, Carbondale area, Shawnee National Forest, and straight shot down 57 from Chicago. So whenever I'm going down there, I always get off at, I think it's exit 129B, stop at my old alma mater, Eastern Illinois, and I always stop at McHugh's double drive-through for a big queue. So if you guys ever find yourself in Illinois on 57, give it a try. Really, really good burgers down there. The city's actually growing up pretty big. Back when I went there, like, we only had a Walmart and like a McDonald's. I mean, there were no Starbucks, no Jimmy John's. No, actually, I take that back. Eastern Illinois is actually the home of Jimmy John's. We did have a Jimmy John's, but like, you really didn't have many chain stores or restaurants or anything like that. The town has gotten a little bit bigger. They kind of have some of that stuff now. But even way back when I was in college, I thought being a landlord in that town would be really interesting. You could pick up a house for 25 grand, maybe 4 or 5 bedroom house. A lot of times they had a basement or an attic, so you could put another kid in there. And I don't know if all college towns are like this, or if this is kind of unique to Illinois, but I used to visit my friends at a lot of the other schools in Illinois, Western Illinois, Southern Illinois, Northern Illinois, ISU, etc. And it's kind of different how they structure the leases and things like that. So up here in Chicago, if me and 4 buddies wanted to get a house, we find a 4-bedroom house. The house probably rents for, I don't know, $1,500 a month. And actually, just for round numbers, we'll say $2,000 a month. So each one of the 4 of us is responsible for $500. We divvy it up however we want, but at the end of the day, we all, as a whole, owe the landlord $2,000. The way it works in college towns, in my experience, or at least around here, is if you got a 4-bedroom house, rather than doing one lease for $1,200, each kid gets their own lease. So Jim, your rent is $200. Sam, your rent is $200. Joe, your rent is $200, and Phil, your rent is $200. The benefit of this is, whereas a lot of these houses, if you were just paying straight up, might rent for, I don't know, we'll say $500. Because you have 4 kids in there, you got 2, 4, 6, 8. So by structuring the leases the way they do, you're able to get a little bit more money than you probably would renting the traditional way. Another benefit is a lot of times each kid's parents will have to co-sign on the lease, and then also if there's any damages or anything like that, you have 4 different people that you can potentially go after. Not all college students are rowdy and throwing parties and stuff, but I know we used to kind of beat our houses up in college, so it's kind of nice knowing that you got a couple people that you can go after if things kind of turn south. So that's always been something I've been looking into. The school I went to, Eastern Illinois, is probably a good 3.5 hours from Chicago. So that's been the one thing kind of holding me back from getting into that market, is like having to travel down there, look at a place, if you need to do any repairs or anything like that, having to drive down to do them. So just recently I've been kind of looking back into that again, been looking at some property management companies down there and things like that. That's something that I definitely want to get into. And I think one of the nice things about college towns is they tend to be pretty affordable. Like I said, most college towns in Illinois, you can probably pick up houses for $15,000, $20,000, $25,000. And when you can earn pretty good rent off of them, so you can get the house paid off pretty quickly. I think Northern Illinois is probably one of the more expensive schools, or one of the more expensive housing markets, just because of its proximity to Chicago. It's in DeKalb, Illinois, which means it's maybe only a 45-50 minute ride from Chicago. So I think because you're near a major metropolitan city or whatever, properties tend to be a little bit more expensive, but you can find some nice houses there for $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. So that's something that I've really been looking into. For Noah, advice that I would give you, you're a younger guy. I'm going to assume that I might be wrong, but I'm going to assume you maybe don't have a ton of money in savings. You do have a good credit score, so that works for you. You're going to want to go for an FHA loan. FHA loans are a lot more flexible regarding credit, which, it doesn't sound like it's going to be an issue for you with a credit thing. But down payments is where it's really going to help you. Typically, you need at least 10%, maybe 20% down for a down payment. On an investment property, it's normally more like 25%. Because you're a first-time home buyer and assuming you're going to be living there, well, with an FHA loan, you can put down as little as 3.5% down. And a lot of times there's programs that you can actually get, like down payment assistance, lower property taxes, all types of other perks. So, I mean, I did an FHA loan my first time around, and I think on paper I had to show I had about $8,000. In reality, when I got to closing, not only did I not have to put a penny down, I actually wound up getting a check back for $1,800. So there's definitely a lot of programs out there. Find yourself a good loan officer or mortgage guy, and hopefully they're aware of these programs and they can help you out. Another reason you're going to want to do FHA, and I would also suggest sticking to a property that's 4 units or less. I believe with FHA, you're eligible to buy a property up to 4 units. So I would focus on either getting a 2-flat so that you could live in 1 unit and rent out the other. They'll probably cover most of your mortgage, so you can essentially live for free. Or you could even do a 4-unit, live in 1 and rent out the 3 others. For starters, I would probably say a duplex or a 2-unit, just because A, it's going to be a little bit cheaper, and B, this is your first time being a landlord. Like, take baby steps, take some small steps into it. Once you kind of get the lay of the land, then go get yourself a 4-flat and start buying apartment buildings and everything else. But you can buy up to a 4-unit with an FHA loan. I guess with college students, it's a little bit different screening your tenants, but a lot of times college students aren't going to have a really big established credit history. But find yourself some maybe grad students or something like that who are a little bit more responsible, a little bit older, maybe have a little bit more money. I know a lot of times with college students, you're going to want to get their parents to co-sign on the leases, so that if they don't pay or they cause any damage, you got somebody with a little bit more money to go after. But yeah, I've been really, really happy with my experience being a landlord. It's been very profitable for me. I haven't personally done the college thing yet. That's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And I actually have been shopping some properties down in Charleston, Illinois. There's these townhomes, a little bit dumpy, but they're basically right next to the freshman dorm. So a lot of times the freshmen, when they're looking to get their first house, after they're getting ready to get out of the dorms, that's where they go. Right across the street is these townhomes, and it's kind of a cool little party atmosphere or whatever. So it's pretty, I would say they don't stay vacant very often. It's pretty easy to get tenants in there. And also a lot of times with like duplexes or townhomes, there's, a lot of times your exterior maintenance is covered by the association fees. So I mean, if the house needs a new roof or new siding, that's not something you're gonna have to come out of your own pocket for. So something to consider. But yeah, like I said, I've been really happy with my experience as a landlord. Right now I'm looking to buy my second rental property. I'm actually looking into kind of Chicago land market. I'm looking everywhere from like Pilsen, which is the neighborhood on kind of the southwest side of Chicago. I'm looking at Pilsen in some areas in the city, as well as some of the western suburbs and stuff like that. But I have been also shopping some properties down in Charleston, Illinois, and I've been seeing some of these townhouses go for anywhere from $19,000 to maybe $48,000 on the high end. But I'm in the same ballpark as you. I'm kind of looking into doing the same thing. Definitely encourage you to do it. Start saving some money. Make sure you got at least that 3.5% down for a down payment, and probably another 2 or 3% for closing costs. Keep the credit good, and report back. Shoot me an email. Let me know how it goes. If any of you guys are in the real estate game, if any of you guys have rental properties, and especially if any of you guys have rented in the college markets, please drop a comment down in the comment section below. Give me some advice, give Noah some advice, and I'm sure some other people watching this are curious about this as well. So thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button below, and I'll catch you on the next video.